Oh, all right. All right. Yeah. Um, okay, I'm on. Okay, I'm live. Okay, y'all. Finally popped on. What's up, Integrity? All right, y'all. We're gonna be all over the place today. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. A couple of things I want to talk about. I'm only gonna be on an hour too. What is my computer doing? Okay, there you go. It want to act right now. Um, but here in Michigan, we just had a Michigan massacre where a male pretty much unalived his own children that they adopted, his wife, and then the cat and the dog. So he pretty much took everybody out. Um, Domestic violence. That's an ugly thing to talk about. I've seen it firsthand personally. Domestic violence. Um, in my family personally. And so that was just something that I was unfortunately around as a youngster. And the reality is, a lot of times it don't end up, um, really don't end up, the outcome usually don't end up good. Let's just put it like that. Whether that's the man or the woman. Um, Society fails to realize that men are victim of domestic violence as well. Um, and when the pressure gets, when that pressure cooker gets turned up, we all got a breaking point. Let's be real. Let's be honest about it. And a lot of times it's pretty much when it's that breaking point going to come. And a lot of times, um, I think I was taught as a youngster to what goes on in this house stays in this house. And we say mental health is important, but I don't think here in America we realize how important it really is. And so for me, domestic violence is really, I think, once in our lives, whether it's directly through you or somebody else a lot of times, some form or some fashion, a lot of us have seen domestic violence, whether that's with, what's up, Dennis? Whether that's with somebody in the household directly, or, you might have an auntie or uncle that's a part of domestic violence. I grew up around it. I can remember one, two. I can remember at least one, two. What's up, Bronze? I can remember at least, and I'm gonna say unfortunately, these are women that I've seen get, knocked upside the head. No, unfortunately, I haven't seen really a male in my since I've been growing up, really, really having to deal with domestic violence. I'm not saying it's not coming. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. But me personally, as a kid growing up, I only seen it as the male putting his hands on the female. Now, I'm not saying that that is not the only way that you can experience domestic violence in your presence. But it was just one sided when I grew up. Just put it like it was one sided. Um, you got to have them uncomfortable conversations, and I definitely have them uncomfortable conversations with my son and my daughter. Um, because if you as a parent, as a mother or as a father, don't have them type of conversations with your kids at a young age, then you're doing them a disservice, especially if they haven't seen it directly in their household. It's so I have them tough conversations with mine because I don't want them to think that the world is a perfect place when they get out here and they have to deal with people, deal with relationships. It's out there. So for me as a father, I have them type of discussions because I'd rather for you to get it as you're young, which I don't. My son will be 16 next month. My daughter's 13, and so now they're getting of age where my son has already dated a young lady, whatever. You know what I'm saying? My daughter, she hasn't. She got little boys liking her, so it's a conversation that I've always felt I need to have with my children. Um, so domestic violence is not pretty. Usually, it doesn't end pretty, whether it's for the male or the female. You have jealous women that don't mind putting their hands on men, and then once that man knocks her head off, then everybody run and try to get on his head. But where was y'all at on your people's head when she was putting her hands on that male? And that's the same thing with males. When she get ready to use some self defense, whether that's through whether that's through lethal force, or is that rather through locking them up, or him locking her up, whatever the case may be. I meant to do something, y'all. I started this thing off. Hold on, let me see something. Here we go. My computer acting crazy. I'm going over here. My computer acting crazy. I barely use my laptop. Really, the only reason I use it really to jump on and do my lives. But today it's acting a little funky. Normally I get on about an hour and a half. I don't get on about 45 minutes, 30 minutes now. Cause itself want to freeze. So we're gonna pause on showing somebody some love today because my computer wants to act crazy. Now I don't want to go over. All right. I believe domestic violence is higher now. Yeah, I could believe that. Um, but as a lot of times, People take people for granted, and a lot of times you have to know, and this for a male, female, whatever you identify yourself as. You got to know when is it your breaking point? Because back then it was, and your grandmother, grandfather, you was grew up where, matter of fact, my dad's dad had my had kids by my grandma, and also went into town and had a whole nother family, and stayed married. That was the thing back then. No matter what, you stay with the person. Um, no matter what the circumstances is. So, I have my dad has a bunch of half brothers, half sisters, because that's who my grandfather was. He was a truck driver, if I'm not mistaken. That's true, Dennis. A lot of us don't know how to handle a lot of things that come our way, and some of it is taught. When I say taught, not necessarily directly, but being in the facility of domestic violence. So, um, some people are taught. Some people are just for some reason thinks that by abusing someone that they'll stay, and so you have that dynamic as well, where you gotta beat them up physically and mentally, in order to think or have control of another person, which does not. And that's if you think that way, you're not thinking healthy anyway. You're not a healthy thinker if you think violence and demeanoring and disrespecting someone is the way to keep someone. So for me, in that aspect, if you really think that way, then you really have a bigger problem than what you think you don't have, because that's not a way to treat anyone. And I learned that a long time ago. And I had a great father that taught me a lot of these things that I'm talking about today. If you want to jump in, let me drop this link. That's what I was trying to do before I went over. Hold on, let me drop this. No, all right, let me drop this link. If y'all want to jump in, y'all can. And shout out to Alert Zone TV. Kind of got me on wanting to do this. Um, but Daddy always taught me that you can't control your partner. You can work with your partner, you can compromise with your partner, but you can't truly can't control your partner. You can to a certain extent, and that's with the verbal disrespect, and then sometimes eventually it becomes, what you're wearing. Let me pick you out something to wear, and then eventually it becomes physical. Where you're going, who you're hanging out with. I don't. Me personally, if I gotta ask you all them questions to figure out where you're going, if I gotta follow you, if I gotta leave my job, that's not healthy. That's not healthy at all. And so for me, I don't. That's not my lane. And so if I find something, then I find something, but I'm not going to look for anything. And eventually, a person will slip up. That's just my thing. Eventually, you'll slip up, because you're not perfect. You're going to eventually you will slip up. Um, but I'm not about to mentally disrespecting, I'm definitely not about to put my hands on you to try to control you. Um, then that gets people involved in your relationship, and then you just got a whole lot of elements that's gonna come into that relationship, and it's gonna end up becoming bad anyway. Whether that's you having to put your hands on one of our family members, or his family members, or you got maybe have to unalive a family member, his or hers, and so it doesn't end well to me. So if you got an insecurity, deal with your insecurity first. Feel comfortable in loving yourself first, because if you don't love yourself first, then what you bring into a relationship or what you bring to someone else is going to be baggage, and baggage that you needed to take care of before you even jumped into another relationship. So you have to know yourself. The dynamic of this conversation: know yourself, know what you're worth, and know what you can and can't take, and know what's your breaking point. I think them are all good pointers when you're dealing with people, even friends. No, I tell a lot of people, and that this is just me. What I do for a friend, I don't expect back. That could be a good, that could be a bad thing. But it's when I want to deal with you. It's not when you want to deal with me. It's when I want to deal with you. So I know how you are. I know what you're willing and not willing to do for me as a friend. And I'm okay with it. I'm fine with it. But I don't expect anything back. And so to me, domestic violence is very, very real out here. It's people, we just been having, I think this is we had that one that was in Louisiana, I think earlier this year, with the young man unaliving, I'm sorry, let me say the correct, politics, unaliving his own children, a niece, no, a cousin, he ended up turning the firearm on himself and end up, you know, eventually taking itself out. What's up, Glock? And so, I tell a lot of people this. This is me personally. Even with the president, a certain color of people um are feeling some of what the president is doing. Me personally, I don't rely on the government. Uh, if I can get some out the government, it's a bonus. Some people can't cope with losing their job. I think he was some big wherever he was, and they said recently he lost his job, and I guess that's kind of sent him over the edge by him losing his job. Um, but life is not perfect, and if you don't have a good head on your shoulders, you can find yourself in some very sticky situations. Uh, and that's maybe lashing out at the kids, maybe lashing out at your spouse, and then sometimes eventually going a little bit too far, and end up doing something you're gonna regret. And that's the thing. That's the pressure cooker. You know. The economy. Everything is going up. As they continue to take things up, they're not taking up pay, and so you have to adjust financially. So most of us have to adjust with what's going on. Um, I know with me, I'm kind of cutting some stuff down. I'm trying to trim the fat as much as I can, um, wherever I can. And so one thing I did do was call AT&T. Was trying to switch my AT, and what I'm trying to do now is trying to bundle a lot of my stuff. When I say bundle, I've got my car insurance and my home insurance through Progressive. I'm T-Mobile with my cell phone, and I want to say AT&T with my internet. And so when I call AT&T, to try to see if I can switch over to them from T-Mobile, I had a couple promotions that I had to wait because they was trying to figure out, well, why was I trying to drop AT&T. And so with that being said, they end up cutting. I think my bill was like 70. They end up cutting it down to about $48 for the next 2 years. And so my plan in the next 2 years in 2028, I plan to switch my T-Mobile service over to AT&T to save a couple bucks, bundle that together. That way I can get a couple more discounts with AT&T and get a smaller phone bill. And so you always you're always trying to find some way to shave some fat somewhere, because that's even with my car insurance and my home insurance. I was 1,600 for the year with AAA. Then I messed around and went with USAA, which is supposed to be a military thing. They shot it up to 2,700 per year. I said, "Oh no!" I said, "Y'all, $1,100 more than what I was paying, and then the deductible is the same amount." Oh no! So I end up calling around. I wish I would have stayed with AAA, but I mean, you learn. This is my first house, so you learn as you go. And so I end up calling around. I think I called a bunch of people. AAA. I called them again. Um, State Farm, Liberty, um, Allstate. It's about 8 of them, and each one with the bundle. Because I think my wife was paying 100, like 130 for a car insurance full coverage. Um, and so I end up bundling them both. Her car insurance. Now we got the snap. Now if you're not a bad driver, we got the snapshot, which gives you another discount onto your automobile insurance. So it was 260. So she went up from 130 to 260. Because my thing is, we both got to, eat some of this cost. Um, and then my insurance went down to 2,100. I mean, I took what I could, you know what I'm saying? And so I shaved off about $450 to about $500 comparing to 2,700. And so now with the snapshot, she's only paying, I want to say, about 220. It's $100 jump, but you gotta balance it, here and there. And so um, that's what I plan to do in 2028 if I'm still here. I plan to definitely plan to switch my cell phone service over to AT&T when the time comes. Only reason I didn't do it because I just did a promotion with T-Mobile, which doesn't end to 2028, and so I'm gonna ride them out until then. After that, I think I'm going to go and drop them and go and bundle my internet and my cell phone service into one. Um, that pressure cooker is not a joke. And you definitely got to have somebody, whether that's a cousin, whether that's a homie, that you can, what I'm saying, bounce off them, they can bounce off you about their spouse. Now, not dogging your spouse, but, having a man's conversation about what's going on. Because if you don't have no outlet, then a lot of times as people, some of us don't know where to disperse that frustration. For me, doing my Lego, and I just give you one that's just right beside me. This is my Lego shelf. I just I do Legos. That's a relief stressor for me. Another thing that's a relief stressor for me is to go out and go to the range and throw a couple down range. You know, that's another release. I mean, stress reliever. So you got to have a stress reliever. You got to have some time for yourself away from your spouse to go enjoy yourself. If that's to go to the range with your homies, go do a little shooting some steel, do a little moving around, get out and go have some fun with your fellas. You know, and that's the same thing with women. Whatever your woman thing, if that's just to go out and eat, or that's just to go out and skate, whatever it is you love to do, to release some of that pressure, uh, so it won't lead. You know, I'm not saying it's going to lead to it, but that it doesn't lead to domestic violence. We all need our space. We all need to be able to go get away from each other for a couple minutes, for a couple hours. You know, make some plans and just go have a little fun and come back home. You know, just my thing is shooting. My thing is maybe sitting down here in my basement in my office. You know, putting together a Lego truck car. I'm about to do the engines now. I got about 3 or 4 engines in my car. I definitely want to build me a big block engine through the Lego. So that's my next project. I'm gonna buy. I got a Mustang down here that I need to finish. That I need to start. But I want to do an engine before I start doing this Mustang. I already got 2 Mustangs sitting up here. One is red, one is black, and the other one that I have in this box is blue. And so I definitely want to do an engine. They have them now. Well, they probably been had them, but it's a big engine block. So I want to do about 2 or 3 engine blocks before I move on to my Mustang. But it's definitely domestic violence is something that is real. Domestic violence is really nothing to play with. I don't like dealing with men or women that put their hands on their significant other. Um, I have a daughter, I have a son, and I teach them not to put their hands on people if you don't want your hands, if you don't want nobody to put their hands on you. And that goes for all phases in life. That's what I'm saying, as a co-worker. But please believe, when you have to defend yourself, defend yourself. But don't go around starting none. And so for me, keeping your hands to yourself is a very important lesson that we all need to take heed in. And so if I don't put my hands on you, don't put your hands on me. If I don't tear your stuff up, don't tear my stuff up. I mean, it's the same principle. So I don't take because I've seen it firsthand with women in my family. I haven't seen it firsthand with men in my family, but I haven't seen it firsthand with women in my family, but I have seen it with men in my family. I'm not saying it doesn't go on either my mom or my dad's side, but I've seen it only firsthand with male putting his hands on the female. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I'm just saying I haven't seen it personally. Now maybe have I seen it on the street where that women kind of get a little rowdy? Yeah, yeah. But as far as personally, friends and family, no. And I'm not saying that it hasn't happened between friends and family. I'm just not aware of it. But a lot of times it doesn't end good. Nothing good comes out of that situation at all. And especially if it's children involved. Because then now you're teaching your children. You're teaching them the improper way of how to deal with people and pressure when it comes their way. Um, you're teaching them that violence is the way to handle things, and violence is not always the way to handle things. Um, being calm, being being calm in the situation and trying to you're trying to de-escalate the situation as much as you can, without having to put your hands on somebody. Now, I'm not saying every situation you can act that way and you're not gonna have to put your hands on someone, but most of the time you can avoid putting your hands on somebody. And so a lot of times, when you're dealing with children, and that's the biggest thing, especially when you have children in a household that has first experience with domestic violence. Uh, it's going to be likely. It's going to be likely that that child is going to grow up either the domestic, handing out domestic violence, or the spouse handing out domestic violence. And so, I don't know, have some type of outlet. You have to have some type of outlet. Somebody you trust, somebody that won't go and spread your business. And with people's, it depends on what the person's objective is. But a lot of times, we're human. We need somebody to talk to. We need somebody to bounce our thoughts off of. Uh, you need somebody that maybe, you might have a partner too that like to go shoot. Take a one day out of the month to just go chop it up and shoot a couple firearms and have a good time while y'all both, or you three or you four, talking about life. Uh, I'm always about solution based, not problem based. And solution based to me is find something you love to do outside your spouse. Not saying your spouse is a bad thing, because a lot of us spend most of our time at work. That's the majority of where we spend our time. And then the second place to me is home. And so it's okay to get away out of all the working, dealing with the kids if you got kids, um, and life itself, to get out and go find something you love to do outside the household, outside your kids, outside your spouse. It's very healthy. If that's just going somewhere to go look at some art, or maybe going to painting a twist by yourself and just sitting down, create, figure out what you like to do. Everybody not gonna like the same thing. Everybody not gonna like doing the same thing. But if shopping is your thing, I don't think shopping really does anything, but a lot of women like to go shop. Um, but I mean, everything costs pretty much some money, just to go to the gun range, you got to buy the ammo, you got to buy the targets, you got to buy the time, and so, but you compromise. You get to go do something you like for a day. You get to go have fun. Get to go talk, chop it up with your fellas. Women get to go chop it up with your girlfriends, and then you come back home and then go back at it again. But a lot of us work. A lot of our time is spent at work. And so, find what your breaking point is. We all got a breaking point. I don't care what nobody says. I ain't got. You have a breaking point. You just gotta know what your breaking point is, what you're willing to deal with, what are you willing to deal with as far as that person is concerned. Um, and so I know this is kind of awkward, but if you want to jump up here, you can. I do have the link. Let me see, where's that link at? Do I gotta put that link back up here? Yeah, let me put that link back up here. Hold on, y'all. Let me throw the link back up here just in case somebody wants to jump on. Oh no, print. I'm tripping. Hold on, y'all. I meant to put paste. Let me do this again. I meant to put paste. And that's the real thing. A lot of people don't talk about breaking points. We all have a breaking point. We all try to be strong. We try to, put our best foot forward, but we all have a breaking point. And a lot of people don't want to talk about that. And so for me, relationships, being with someone, and I've learned throughout the years, um, a lot of us we ignore the red flags because a lot of us we get the red flags within that 3 month period. I'm gonna give you 90 days like a job. Within that 90 days, you really know if you can deal with that person. Uh, do you really see yourself long term with that person? We can pretty much tell within 90 days what this person is kind of. You kind of got a wrap on what this person is like. And so a lot of times the red flags we ignore them. And then once we ignore them, we get too deep. We get deep into it, and now you got your feelings involved. You love them, you love her. Not willing to. Yeah. Okay. That okay. Um, and a lot of us ignore the the red flags. I'm sorry. It happens to a lot of us. We ignore it. We take things that we normally wouldn't take from a male or a female. Depends on what you identify yourself with and whatever you like. We ignore the red flags, and then you get your feelings involved, and now you can't stand it. Well, we all know kind of within that 90 days what type of person we're going to be dealing with. Um, Majority of the time, I'm not gonna say all the time, but majority of the time, we know what we're getting ourselves into. But sometimes we just ignore the red flag. So for me, domestic violence is something that America, I think, will always deal with, because some people grow up. Um, I got a couple cousins that grew up in that. You know, um, that didn't turn out. You know, like I thought they maybe would because they were so used to it. Um, and so to me, the best thing you can do is love yourself first. Once you love yourself first and you let it come to you and you evaluate that person for the 90 days, you pretty much know what you want out of a person. And a lot of times within that 90 days, hello? Mm-mm. Pulling ball down. Okay, I'll be outside in a minute. Uh, y'all hold on. I gotta go do something right quick. I gotta do something. Hold on, y'all. On the street. Hey, another thing, y'all. And number one, two. I finally got me a car safe for my pistol. So I will be doing a review on this car pistol safe this week. So I finally got me a pistol safe for my car. Yo, I'm about to get out of here. I gotta change my father-in-law brakes on his car. So yeah, I'm gonna cut this short. Man, y'all be good, be safe. I'll see y'all next week. And peace, y'all be good. I'm out of here.